Hello and welcome to the 2024 To Be Recipient Barometer live event. Thank you for joining us from all over the world. We are coming to you live from Paris. My name is Benjamin Dier, I'm your host, and for the next 45 minutes we are going to unveil the results of this 2024 To Be Recipient Barometer. During this live we'll talk about methodology, sourcing, what drives the delivery experience, and we will also look into the future. What are the key findings of this first edition? What are the business trends throughout Europe? We will answer these questions on this set with my guests, Carmen Cureux and Timo van Spellen. Hello and welcome to the both of you. Carmen, you're Market Research Director at Geopost. As an expert in market research, you manage strategic studies for the group, such as the e-shopper barometer, brand awareness, white papers, and market surveys. Great to have you with us. Timo, you're Global Accounts Managing Director at Geopost. With an extensive experience in the transport industry, you are leading global projects aiming at developing pan-European accounts and cross-border flows. Welcome to the show. I have lots of questions to ask you on that topic. But before we get started, let me tell you that all of you watching can ask your questions to our guests here on set by using the chat. So feel free to send in your questions at any moment, and we'll take the final minutes of this live event to answer the questions you've shared with us, so fire away. Okay, first question, Carmen, maybe what's the scope of this first study? Who did you engage with to build it?
Well, for this new piece of research, Benjamin, we talked with parcel recipients as companies. So basically, to put it simple, we talked with companies who receive parcels as part of their business daily activities. And we talked with both big and small companies with what we consider to be relevant methods for each of these types of companies. Big companies, we had extensive conversations with them, individual interviews with 32 companies across Europe. And with the smaller companies, so the SMEs, we had phone conversations, but based on a predefined questionnaire. These two types of ways of addressing companies allowed us to come today to you with two types of data. We have percentages, so figures, percentages of interest in the various services, expectations, etc., but also verbatim, which means the clear way in which companies expressed their needs, their expectations. What you will see on the slides, you will have quotes, and those quotes are not my interpretation of what companies said, but it's the actual words that the companies used to talk to us. So all in all, more than 2,200 companies across Europe that we interviewed. To do so, we used an external partner. So we partner with a market research agency, Nielsen GfK. In every single company, we discussed with people who are relevant for the topics that we chose. That is to say, either persons who are responsible for choosing the supplier, or persons who are more hands-on and handle the parcel reception on a daily basis.
Great. What was your approach or methodology going into this?
Well, we interviewed companies in 11 countries across Europe, from Western Europe going to Central and Eastern Europe as well. And because we know there is a big variety of companies all across these countries, we made sure that we interviewed companies in various fields of activity. So more than 8 verticals all in all, from fashion to do-it-yourself to automotive industry, but also food and healthcare. Every single time when we talked to companies, we made sure we were not mentioning any brand names. So this research is not about us carriers or about any kind of suppliers. We simply focused on the expectations of companies around suppliers, their way of partnering with them, and around delivery, of course.
Well, thank you for the introduction. Let's move to our first topic, sourcing. So first question on this topic is simple. How do companies choose their suppliers in 2024?
Well, it's the first time we conducted the research, but I think I'm not taking a big risk when I say that based on the results, companies use the same channels nowadays that they used a few years ago before COVID or even longer ago in the past. The first channel actually to get to know suppliers is word of mouth. So for 23% of SMEs in Europe, word of mouth is the main way of getting to know suppliers that they will then approach. Therefore, the importance of positive recommendation from peers is clearly very, very high. Number 2 and number 3, again, traditional channels that we used to also know in the past. Visits from sales representatives, but also trade shows. Out of the top 3, but coming up strongly, internet as clearly a very relevant way of sourcing suppliers nowadays. Interestingly, when companies source their suppliers, they don't do it for a short-term collaboration, but rather for long-term partnerships. 62% of European SMEs tell us that today they only change suppliers or think about changing suppliers every 3 years or even less often. Therefore, coming back again on the recommendation and the importance of recommendation, positive buzz is a door opener, allowing you to grow your customer base, or it can be clearly the thing that will shut the door for quite a long period of time regarding companies.
Yes, and I think this long-term partnership, that is absolutely what clearly we are aiming at developing and maintaining with our customers as well. And I think that's given also the fact that word of mouth is such an important driver here. It is not only about performance, but also about preference. And there's 2 layers, I think. The first one is the basics. So it's really doing what you have promised to do. Then it's really about quality of service and performance. And the second layer, especially over a longer term partnership, is really more about creating added value. So understanding each other's businesses, connecting well to each other's processes, and continuous improvement.
Great. Where do companies source from? To put it plainly, where do they receive parcels from?
Well, basically, in those 11 countries that we surveyed, the parcels come mostly from Europe. Not surprising, I would say. We have 76% of SMEs telling us that they source their goods from their own country, so domestic sourcing. The one surprising figure was, let's say, the spread of sourcing within Europe, but in a different country, so cross-border sourcing. 68% of SMEs told us that they also have suppliers based in other European countries than their own. And when we look at the main countries of origin of the parcels, we have Italy, Germany, and France. Personally, I would have expected Germany to rank first, but anyways, as you can see on screen, the results are pretty close. For sure, sourcing outside of Europe is also present, but to a more limited extent. 17% of European SMEs tell us that they have their goods coming from outside of Europe, namely from Asia.
Okay, great. Based on this study, how important are deliveries for B2B players?
Well, if we think about these deliveries, let's think about what companies receive in those parcels. Basically, it's products that are key for their operations, for manufacturing companies, or also for retailers. So basically, it's their, let's say, main line of business that depends on the goods delivered through parcels. So for sure, we have 86% of SMEs who tell us that delivery is a key, let's say, block building, helping them to build a good business. They definitely express it that way. And they also tell us that from that perspective, for them, the carrier matters. But we will get into the way in which we can help develop a business success a bit later on.
Absolutely. But first, let's focus on the criteria. What are the criteria they look for when they choose a supplier?
Well, again, thinking about the goods that come through the parcels, it's the goods that they will use for their business activities. Therefore, unsurprisingly, the 2 notions that are mentioned are price and quality. It then depends. Some companies will go for high quality at whatever cost. Others will go for the lowest price possible, but in the bundle, those are the two that come on top. The third one, clearly highlighting the importance of delivery in the processes and operations of SMEs, is the fact that the supplier works with a trustworthy carrier. What SMEs and big companies tell us is that the carrier is clearly the business card of their own supplier. Therefore, very high expectations around that one. These are, let's say, the drivers of choice, but we also asked about the criteria that will block clearly a choice, so the barriers. And again, top three in a mirror: price. Too high of a price is a blocker. Too low quality will be a blocker. Unreliable carrier will also be a blocker. And this partnership with unreliable carriers will be extremely, let's say, strong as a barrier in Germany, but also in Spain, the UK, and Poland. On top of these, we also have an interesting mix of emotional and rational barriers. In Western Europe, interestingly, when we think about Germany, the UK, and France, the weight of bad relationships and bad buzz is very, very high. Therefore, a clear thing that will shut the door to a possible collaboration. The more we go to Eastern Europe, the more rational we get in terms of blockers. Clearly, a region where we have tougher economical conditions, higher inflation, as in Southern Europe. So in these countries, the billing conditions come really high in terms of blockers.
So you listed criteria such as price, quality, reliability. One you didn't mention is sustainability. Is it still something important when it comes to deliveries for companies?
For sure. It's really important when it comes to deliveries, but it's really important when it comes to choosing a supplier overall. This is something that we saw, I think, already 2 years ago in a previous study that we conducted on sustainability. This is a key criteria and acknowledged as a hot topic by both big, small, medium companies. However, there's a nuance in there that I would like to stress. When we think about big companies, the bigger they are, the more mature they are as well in terms of their approach to sustainability. And when we talk to big companies, we clearly see that these aspects, social responsibility, environmental imprint, are clearly included and structured even in their tender processes. So for those ones, for sure, a key criteria of choice of suppliers and carriers. When we get to SMEs, this is where we have, let's say, a twofold reality. For sure, a clear acknowledgement of the fact that things should change. However, if small companies know clearly that social responsibility is key, in terms of environmental imprint, they are not at the same level of maturity. Let me explain. When we talk to SMEs, they tell us in a very straightforward way, the goods I buy must be ethically produced. There is no other way, so this is a must. Getting into environmental responsibility, this is where they tell us that they need higher budgets for investment. They also need higher expertise, technical people who will put in place a strategy. And this is where they are not at the same level of maturity as the big companies and expect clear support.
Thank you. Timo?
Yeah, I think it's clear that sustainability is part of the general expectations of our customers for years already now. And it's increasing. So we see that 70%, not all companies of course, but 70% of companies have increased their budgets for sustainability since 2019. So really in reducing their footprint, there's some activity there. That's on their own business activity. The second layer would be on the sustainability in cooperation with your suppliers and in the supplier choice. And we see that sustainability is now one of the top 3 elements in many big tenders that we see from our large customers and potential customers. And especially in fashion and sportswear, we see in the past 2-3 years that it's really a cooperation in challenging each other to be more specific on the exact footprint of that customer to that destination and to show some tangible results there. So it's really co-creation already.
Thank you very much for those insights. Let's dig deeper into what these companies look for in a delivery partner. Let's welcome our special guest, Vincent Perronnet. Hello, Vincent, your Commercial Excellence Pricing and SME Director at Geopost. Welcome to the set. Let's deep dive together into the SMEs' expectations. We just mentioned that for SMEs, the operational aspects are as important as some more emotional criteria, such as trust and recommendation. What's your opinion on that? And could you elaborate on the SME's latest expectations?
So hello everyone, hello Benjamin, hello Carmen, hello Timo. First, looking back at our history at Geopost, we are a group of delivery champion domestically, and we grew up by supporting small and medium companies. But with the development of e-commerce and new technology, our customer portfolio situation that changed a little with the emergence of big e-merchant, but we really keep on supporting those kind of company, for instance, by helping them developing a cross-border. And as mentioned by Carmen, we know at what extent the cross-border is relevant for them in terms of opportunity. So from this long common experience with them, we know quite well the SME shippers. So coming to their challenges, now they face consumer more and more demanding and volatile. And at the same time, for them, it's more and more costly to retain and gain those customers. So for them, the retention is key. So these reasons bring them at the time of delivery for very important and strong expectation. So in a nutshell, they seek efficiency and quick solving problem solution. So very rational and operational aspect.
So can you tell us more about the solution you offer these SMEs to meet their needs?
So I would say we have two main group of solutions. So we have first a set of digital tools. The SME owners today, they want some simplicity, but obviously modernity and autonomy. So I can mention our self-care portal called My DPD for Business, which is a portal enabling the user to have a full overview of the shipment, tracking live. They can redirect when necessary, and they can even, among other functionality, have a look to the invoices and more. Second point is the digital label, very helpful for smooth return without need to print any paper label. And more recently, we have developed a tool called Carbon Calculator for any size of company, but very interesting for this one who are less capability to develop their own tool, and they can have a very clear visibility of the carbon footprint and also follow the reduction of their carbon consumption. So I would say we put on the table here a very value-added solution for this company, especially when some strong regulation will come and they have to face to very big constraints. So in other words, it's a good example to build a close partnership with this kind of company by providing a very efficient tool.
Well, you just mentioned the tools. What about what we could call the emotional factor in these relationships?
So that's another aspect, but before I want to address also the human aspect that we want also to offer, and that's the second group of tools we offer. We offer a strong human support to maintain always contact interaction between our customer and our team, because it's key for retention. So for instance, our customer agents are working hand in hand with the SME owner to solve problem as fast as possible, and our sales guy are crafting solution to help them developing business. So to wrap up, we offer digital solution, some digital oriented and some more human oriented. To answer your question about emotion, hopefully those benefits will be for us a good enabler to foster strong and long-lasting relationship, as indeed, as you mentioned, emotional is now also very significant, play a great role in our industry. And to illustrate, let me give you a personal example on this aspect. I love shop in a bookstore nearby where I live, and especially to buy a paper agenda. And you should know that I'm a paper fan, and I'm more paper than digital somehow. That's why some people call me a boomer. But anyway, but in this shop, I know that the owner is always telling me that he likes that the driver is coming every day at the same time to pick up parcel, have a little chat, because for him it's somehow reassuring to have this physical contact on a regular basis, and that's what we call emotional.
Thank you very much, Vincent. Boomer or not, your opinion is appreciated. Thank you for joining us on set. We're going to jump now into our next topic, which is delivery expectations and overall experience. So first, let's talk about the carrier's choice. What freedom do these companies have when it comes to delivery options?
Well, definitely SMEs tell us they have lots of freedom to choose the frequency of their delivery, the place of the delivery, the speed of the delivery itself. Therefore, they define, let's say, the services that are best suited for their needs. But this freedom disappears all of a sudden when it comes to the choice of the carrier itself. Only 15% of European SMEs tell us that they can actually choose the carrier that will deliver their parcels.
Well, only 15% get to choose the actual partner they work with. From the study, do you know that they would like, if they would like to be more in control, maybe?
Definitely, they tell us, well, it's the goods that I will use for my business. It's my products, my business, so there should be also, for me, the liberty to choose the carrier that will deliver those goods to me. 58% of SMEs tell us that they definitely want to choose themselves the supplier of their delivery services, and it goes as high as 74% in Poland.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting to draw the parallel with the online consumer market. Where we see that 72% of online buyers states that knowing the carrier influences their buying decision. So it's a really relevant element there as well. And we see that it also leads to more transparency and options offered by the shippers in many cases. So then back to the parallel of the 58% and the 15% that can only choose today. My expectation would be that there will be a push to get this in the same direction as on the consumer market.
And just a quick note on that, I think regarding the companies, we are one step further in terms of expectations and engagement, in the sense that what we see for e-shoppers is that they want at least to know who will deliver the parcel, because they have their opinions on the various carriers in the market. Regarding companies, it's not just knowing, it's actually choosing, getting to choose, to say, yes, I want to work with this carrier, I trust this carrier, or definitely not with this other one.
So whether they can choose their carrier or not, what do these companies define as the perfect delivery? What do they expect from that?
Well, they do have very high expectations. And if I were to continue, Timo, your parallel with the e-shopper world, we know that e-shoppers expect convenience. And this convenience is translated in various types of services, depending on the country and depending on the specific type of purchase that you made. Regarding SMEs, convenience is not a word that will come up often. On the other hand, what we hear a lot, it's efficiency. And if there was one word that could encompass their expectations, I think that is it. They expect to have very efficient deliveries. Efficient in the sense that they fit effortlessly and in a very straightforward way into their own operations and into their own processes. So when I look at the first expectation, that's what I would call an industry basic. They expect their parcels to be handled safely and delivered without damages, more than fair. Second expectation, they are really well aware of the fact that we handle lots of parcels, they handle lots of parcels, so things can happen. Something may go wrong, and they acknowledge that, but the expectation that comes clearly after is to get those issues solved very quickly and very efficiently. Again, the same word that comes up. And if I look at the various countries that we surveyed in Europe, there are two where this expectation is higher: Belgium and the Netherlands. So turning to you, Timo, for obvious reasons, can you give us a glimpse of why this is happening?
Yeah, I think as a Dutchman, probably there's no escaping from this question. Yeah, I think it's quite obvious. Benelux, so Netherlands and Belgium, quite small countries in size, very export-oriented already for decades. So that means that the mindset is already very much on outside the country, not only for export, but also for sourcing. It makes more sense to source also from abroad. This does, however, bring some complexity, at least potentially some complexity to the process of the business recipients, because it puts more pressure on having full transparency on what's happening during the process, to have clear notifications on what's happening during the process, but it can also bring additional hassle or handling or costs for example, customs clearance.
These are the first two, let's say, expectations. Third criteria that comes into the bundle of this perfect delivery is around speed, but not necessarily the fastest speed possible. But what companies tell us is that they expect to be delivered on time. And this on time can be explained by two notions. Companies, specifically SMEs, expect the carriers to take a commitment. So clearly say, on this trade lane, I will deliver in 2 days, or in 3 days, or maybe, if it's far away, in 4 days. Once that commitment is made, they also expect us as carriers to live up to the expectation and to the promise that we made.
Yes, and that's what we call day definite. So our network, both domestic and cross-border, and especially the cross-border, we have built around the principle of having a day-definite promise, meaning that both for 2C and 2B, actually, we have a very accurate zip code to zip code prediction of what the lead times will be, supporting the SMEs and the business receivers in optimizing their own business activities.
On top of these industry basics that we have in the top 3 of the criteria expected by SMEs, we also have some emerging expectations that will come probably as an influence from the e-commerce world on us when we work in a professional context. Thinking about the tracking of the parcels. When we are e-shoppers, we all purchased, I think, at least once on the internet. Tracking comes to us in an effortless way. We get notifications that are pushed through various channels, so we know without even asking where the parcel is at all times. Same expectation coming from SMEs into the business context. If things can be so smooth in the e-shopper world, they should be, in terms of expectations, at least the same level of smoothness in the business daily lives. On top of this, another thing that comes from our, let's say, experiences as e-shoppers, the use of apps. We interact with apps, telling the carrier to deliver at a different date, so different slot, because we won't be at home after all when the delivery should happen, or we redirect the parcel to a parcel shop or to a neighbor, etc., etc. This interaction with a carrier through the app is also coming up as quite important expectation. And interestingly, the smaller the company, the higher this expectation comes.
Nice. So that's it for expectations. Thank you very much. Let's move on now and see how SMEs deliveries compare with domestic deliveries. Do you have some key figures you could share on us with us?
Yes, for sure. We've seen lots of expectations. Let's also look at how we as carriers answer the needs expressed by SMEs and big companies. Today, 82% of the SMEs that we talked with tell us they are happy, overall happy, with the domestic deliveries that they get. And when we were preparing this talk, the question that came up was, okay, 82%, is that very high, not high enough? Can it be improved? Today, I don't have a clear way of answering that question, but luckily the data allows us to slice and dice the figures. And when we look into the more detailed level of satisfaction, we see that almost half of the SMEs are very satisfied with domestic deliveries. So I would tend to say that's a thumbs up, clearly. But a third of SMEs are just averagely satisfied. And this is where clearly there is room for improvement, processes to improve, new potentially added value services to bring onto the table to increase the satisfaction and the level of engagement of these SMEs with the delivery. And if I look at international deliveries, Timo, you mentioned to what extent it can bring additional challenges. 83% of European SMEs are happy with the cross-border deliveries that they get. More than 40% very satisfied, but around 40% averagely satisfied. So again, room for improvement here as well.
Yeah, pretty good, but could be even better.
Definitely.
So what are the levers you could operate to increase satisfaction?
Well, I would say, and Timo, I don't think you will disagree, first thing, let's continue to do well what we are doing well right now. So keep up delivering on the business basics. And then the additional added value can come from the region where we have growing expectations and things coming from the e-shopper world onto the businesses. We mentioned tracking and the expectations around that. When we look at how companies, specifically SMEs, track their parcels today, it's in a very traditional way. It's all about website, either the website of the supplier or of the carrier, by filling in the parcel number, sometimes every single parcel number. So for sure, not very efficient. And this is where apps can come into play, automated dashboards where, with just one click or just one thumb, you can actually see the status of all your parcels.
Timo?
Sorry, let's...
Just about this expectation and the way that we could improve satisfaction. What's the feedback you have from your customers, expectations?
Yeah, expectations is when it comes to the business receivers, it's like Carmen said, it's really all about efficiency. So it's really about having full visibility, having clarity, also when things develop different during the process, to be informed and to be able to anticipate.
Thank you. We mentioned the parallel between e-shopping and business world. What about out-of-home deliveries? Are they a trend that also concerns the SMEs?
Well, we see that out-of-home is part of those emerging expectations. Only 32% of SMEs tell us that it's very important for them today to have parcels delivered out of home. But I would say, interestingly, when we look at countries where this way of delivering parcels is already very mature in the e-commerce space, those countries are already higher in terms of expectations on the business part of the deliveries. 48% among Polish SMEs, 36% among SMEs from Central and Eastern Europe. And we know that those countries are clearly at the forefront of out-of-home deliveries in Europe.
Yeah, out of home is clearly, it's in the consumer market, it's already clear for some years that this is a trend that is accelerating. So the demand for out-of-home solutions is increasing. And that's also why we are, let's say, building and adjusting our network going forward to having the right balance between business and home deliveries on the one side and out-of-home deliveries being shop and locker deliveries at the same time. And actually in the 2B market, it's also a trend that is visible. So my expectation is, as most decision makers in business life are also consumers, that this trend will simply also accelerate in the 2B market.
So we'll keep an eye on it. At the heart of every delivery is the carrier, the driver, the actual person handling the parcel. How significant is their part in the delivery process and in the customer relationship?
Very, very significant to put it very clearly. SMEs tell us that carriers are the business card of their suppliers. The same way the drivers are the carrier's business card, for sure. They are the human face and body of the delivery. And we have very high expectations around this aspect. 77% of SMEs tell us today that they actually prefer to be delivered always by the same driver. Why? Because they engage in a more human, closer relationship that will ultimately bring efficiency to the carrier and efficiency to the company that is being delivered, because he or she, the person delivering the parcel, will know exactly where to deliver, when to deliver, who to call in case of issues.
Well, let's talk some more about the importance of drivers on a company's efficiencies. Let's welcome another perspective with our next guest, Samuel Lebratti. Welcome, Samuel. Great to have you with us. You're Group Industry Director at Geopost. Carmen was just mentioning how tracking, speed, and the ability to interact with the carriers are key for SMEs. Could you tell us if it's a vision that's shared by the clients and the shippers you work with?
Yeah, Benjamin, thank you for having me today in the studio. Hi, Carmen, Timo. Yeah, indeed. Accuracy of information sharing is very, very important for SMEs. SMEs are really using this information on a daily basis to plan their own workforce, the people on the workflow that receive the parcels. So that's why accuracy of information sharing in the tracking is very, very important. And in parallel to that, what's even also very important is our drivers. I mean, they are really at the core of our service. The driver are on a daily basis in direct contact with the recipients, the customer of our customers. And as Carmen was saying, the recurrent arrival of the driver at the same address really creates what we would say a delivery intimacy between the driver and the receiver.
What do these recipients expect from this intimacy, from the drivers, from their relationship they create together?
Yeah, recipients really expect our drivers to know their business. And when I say to know their business, is really to know where to deliver the parcel, to deliver to the right contact within the premises, to deliver to the right location within, for instance, a building. Few examples, for instance, delivering a parcel to the right department in a hospital when we deliver healthcare product. Deliver the parcel to the right location onto an industrial estate, or when delivering a parcel onto a building site. All those elements are very crucial, and this daily, I would say, human relationship between the driver and the recipient really create what we would say a positive delivery experience B2B.
Great. So that's the situation today. What could enhance the delivery experience tomorrow?
We are evolving towards, I would say, a pre-advising of delivery information, especially with the definite service, the cross-border delivery service. This will provide even more transparency to the final consignees. And this will also enhance the positive B2B delivery experience.
Great. Thank you very much, Samuel, for sharing your insights.
Thank you very much.
With us. Remember, you can ask your questions to our speakers using the chat at any moment. But for now, let's move on to the final segment of our live. So we started just mentioning it with Samuel a few seconds ago. Looking into the future, what are the levers that you have identified when it comes to improving B2B deliveries overall?
Well, to be fair, we did not think that it's up to us to invent the future. We asked actually SMEs what their expectations are towards delivery, improved delivery, not for in 5 years' time, but for tomorrow. And interestingly, and probably a bit of a, let's say, twofold approach here, they tell us digital is the future and human is the future. as well. Let me explain. We have 35% of SMEs who tell us that improving the tracking will actually improve their delivery experience. And we already mentioned to what extent tracking is important. And this is where technology and the digital world can bring lots of efficiency. This is where the interactive dashboards, the automated dashboards can really help allow SMEs to very easily track their parcels, to be already informed when something went wrong at the very beginning of the delivery process, when we already know that there will be a delay, so that they can readjust their operations accordingly. That's the digital part, but that's not enough. 35% of SMEs expect an improved customer service experience. And when it comes to customer service, what they expect, at least what they say, is that they want to have a human voice, a human face, a human person at the end of the line, or irrespective of the channel that they use to get in touch with customer service. Interestingly, we get again into the more emotional part of the business. Whenever they talk about digital, they use very pragmatic, efficient words, etc., etc. When we talk about customer service, they say they expect an efficient customer service, but a caring customer service as well. So empathy is very important. Again, we know that it is their parcels, their business, their, let's say, wins, losses at the end of the day. That is why they also expect a lot of empathy from everyone.
Thank you, Carmen. And one last question for you, Timo. How do you prepare for the future at Geopost?
Interesting question, and let me start by stating that the customer is, let's say, our central focus area when it comes to our future developments. And then our position in the market is quite interesting, because every parcel that we deliver has actually two customers. It's both the one shipping it and the one receiving it. So everything that we are doing and developing, and all the insights that Carmen and our team are creating, are supporting us to strengthen the connection and the interaction to both customers of each parcel. So having said that, there's three key pillars for our future developments. One is the sustainability roadmap, where Geopost, we have stated and have set a clear target to be net zero by 2040. And then there's two elements again here. One is about the real insetting and making sure that your footprint reduces fast. And secondly, it's also by supporting our customers. I think it was mentioned by Carmen as well, supporting our customers, and especially also the SME customers, in getting, let's say, at par with that development in the market, and showing and reporting also to their customers what the exact footprint and the reduction of the footprint will be with our carbon calculator. So that is the one. The second pillar is really all about technology, where technology, summing up also what has been discussed today, is very much about creating visibility and facilitating interactions. So with the MyDPD app and the MyDPD for Business that we have deployed and are developing continuously, is really aimed at putting the customer, both the shipper and the receiver, in the driver's seat to have full visibility and interact with us wherever it's needed, also when it comes to customer service and those elements. So that's all what we're developing. The third element is really about choice and efficiency. So let's say our hybrid network that is delivering both 2B and 2C parcels in the same delivery routes is a day-definite one. So we're not aiming to be always the fastest, but always the most reliable and predictable carrier. And it is about home deliveries and out-of-home deliveries, as mentioned before. So last year we were the first carrier to be above 100,000 pickup locations across Europe, shops and lockers. And we will continue to invest in that network and to further deploy it.
Thank you very much, Timo. Thank you to the both of you. I think we covered the key takeaways for the start of these results. And I've run out of questions, so we're going to turn to the questions you've sent our way through the chat. Thank you very much. Let's turn to the first one. It says, very interesting, thank you. Do you think that a 2C specialized carrier can also serve 2B recipients efficiently?
Absolutely. The only question can be yes, and that is mirrored in the network that we are running. So a big share of what we are delivering is 2C, and that has been the growing part for the past years. but no mistaking, there's still a very relevant part of our business that consists of 2B business, and it's a very big share. So for us, this continuously had and will continue to have the attention to develop. And you see also in some of the topics we discussed today that there are many and more increasing parallels between the way that that consumers and especially SMEs are taking their buying decisions.
Okay, great. Next question. We mentioned those 15% of companies that cannot choose their supplier. A question about that. Can you explain what are the reasons that some of these SMEs, most of them, cannot choose their carrier?
Well, I would say it's probably on the end of the supplier that the answer should be looked for. From what I know, and Timo, correct me if you have a different vision of things, but some suppliers, they come with very strict rules and regulations that will be imposed. They work with sometimes just 1 or 2 carriers that they will therefore impose on the recipients of the parcels that they ship. For sure, today, not necessarily the expectation of SMEs who will receive then the parcels.
Okay. You mentioned earlier on that this survey was conducted among 8 different industries. We shared the overall results, but are the results available per industry?
Definitely, we wanted to be very straightforward today, so we just gave you an overview of the total results, but we definitely have specific views and an understanding of the expectations per every single one of the 8 industries that we surveyed.
Okay, we talked about out-of-home deliveries. We saw that's a trend. It's an emerging trend for SMEs. For what type of industries would you say would it be the most applicable?
Yeah, I think in general, the out-of-home is more for, let's say, deliveries that require from the receiver some flexibility in the moment of picking it up. So when you really have to decide the moment, and it can also be an unconventional moment that you want to receive a parcel, then lockers, for example, are a great solution. Also for, let's say, smaller products. Otherwise, you prefer to have it delivered at your doorstep. But I think a good example is also the maintenance industry, where service engineers really need to pick up components, parts, spare parts that they would probably need for a job during the day at a very early time in the morning. And that's also an example where out-of-home and lockers are a great solution.
Thank you. We mentioned the influence of B2C deliveries, of course. What country is the most influenced by B2C based on this study?
That's a tough one, but actually there are influences in all countries. Probably the one with the highest ones will be, for me, Poland, probably. One country where we had an extraordinary boom of e-commerce over the past years. So a spike in terms of getting to a mature point of view among e-shoppers translated immediately into the business world. We saw that in Poland we have the highest expectations already around out-of-home delivery among SMEs. A clear connection with the fact that in Poland we have one of the most mature out-of-home markets already in the e-shopper world. High expectations around the freedom for the SMEs to choose their carrier, coming from a very good knowledge of the carriers that are on the market. So yeah, if I had to choose one country, that would be Poland.
Great. We mentioned sustainability as one of the criteria used by companies to choose their suppliers, their partners. How can Geopost sustainability roadmaps support SMEs?
Yeah, for SMEs it's of course a bit different than for the large multinationals who are investing a lot of money in insetting, reducing their footprint, and communicating to their customers about it. SMEs do not often have the position to do the same. So supplier selection, sourcing is then one of the key elements, of course, to support these ambitions. And like with the example of the carbon calculator, I think that can really allow SMEs also to not only show the exact footprint of their activities and the deliveries, but also the development and the reduction in that. So to be at par.
Okay, great. Well, that's it for the question we have received. So thank you very much for your answers. Thank you to all of you watching for sending in your questions to our experts. It's time to wrap up this program. So a big thank you to the communication department at Geopost for putting this live event together. Thank you to all our technical crew and staff for making it happen. And thank you, of course, to our speakers, Vincent, Samuel, and of course, Carmen, Timo. Thank you very much for being on the set with me. Thank you for watching. Stay safe and see you soon with Geopost.